We're excited to welcome to our program today Gary Hardwick. He's someone I've had the opportunity to interview on Conversations Live, the radio show, to feature in Conversations magazine, and now to be able to have him in our first visit to Los Angeles is really an honor. Gary, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me come out. I'm enjoying it so far.
Well, well, look, yeah, exactly. Hopefully that will continue for sure. Gary, of course, people know you for a lot of different things. They know you, of course, for the writers for the film, the Brothers, Deliver Us from Eva. But also, I first interviewed you because of the Danny Kavanaugh books. And this newest one that you have coming up in 2016, Grind City, that our viewers could be able to see is really going to be a fascinating read for them. I mean, what has it been like for you, Gary, to kind of have these two worlds where people know you for film, as well as, of course, what you've been able to do for literature?
Well, it's been the typical blessing and a curse. You try to bring both your audiences together, and in Hollywood, people like you if you're known for doing the one thing.
Yeah.
The book guy, or he's the comedy guy, or he's the drama guy, or he's the slave movie guy. And I'm none of those guys. I write romantic comedies, I write thrillers, I write books, I write television, I write comedy and drama and screenplays, and I'm always just sort of going for the best story and not worrying about what medium it shows up in. So on the one hand, you get a good reputation for being versatile and prolific, and people admire that. On the other hand, people are into sort of compartmentalized thinking in Hollywood, like, I'm going to build a movie with this star and that director and the comedy guy and this guy. So
right.
you're always having to prove yourself in things that you have proved yourself in before over and over again.
Right.
Which is good because it is sort of humbling, and it always makes you work.
Right. You know, I think the great thing about you, though, Gary, is that you have not put yourself in a box. And I think you show other people, because there's so many people, when I told them I was going to be speaking with you, they were so excited about you and what you have done. I mean, what is it like for you to have found your own passion, but then to have people who are also fans of your work and respected, have your work respected that way?
It's really great. For example, on March 11th, there's a movie coming out with Terrence J. and Paula Patton called The Perfect Match. I wrote that movie, and it is a romantic comedy. It is very funny and also very touching, and it's reminiscent of my work in The Brothers and Deliver Us from Eva. And so those fans were very, very happy. I posted it on my Facebook page. I come back an hour later, and there's like 1,000 hits and shares, and because people are saying, what are you going to do next, and what are you going to do next? And I'm always working. It's just hard to get things through the process of Hollywood when Hollywood sort of takes the path of least resistance in terms of commercialism, right, but not necessarily in terms of artistry. So I'm happy to be associated with the movie The Perfect Match, because it'll at least keep those fans, happy. And then a month later, Grind City comes out for the book fans.
Right.
And in the fall, on 9/11, the second Luther Green book called The American Game will also come out.
Amazing. And you mentioned always working, Gary, and I think that is so important. And have you found that part of your success has been that you haven't had this wait and see attitude? You've been so proactive in your careers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's writers create opportunities for themselves, unlike actors and directors, really, who have to sort of wait to be chosen. A writer can be frustrated and go into the room and then write a new opportunity, and it'll just start an enterprise, So, like the film Perfect Match was someone else's script, and it came across me at a company called E1, and on spec I did some work on it. That company didn't end up doing it, and then Queen Latifah's company saw the work I did, and they were like, hey, this is good, and then it kind of went from there. But it was a project that was sort of dormant and wasn't really going anywhere. But because I work all the time, because I like the work, and because I don't sit around and wait to be chosen or necessarily even wait to get paid, I'm always creating opportunities for myself. And then there's that period of time, which I think is coming, when all of a sudden, all the balls you've thrown up in the air all start to come down at the same time, because I have these two books and a film coming out this year. I just recently started a new project that all of my representatives are extremely excited about. Yesterday I set up 2 projects with Jordan Sparks, the winner of American Idol, who I had just met for the very first time, and now we already have 2 projects. And so if I didn't have the work already, I couldn't say to Jordan, hey, I've got a great idea for a movie, I'll see you in 3 months.
Right.
3 months from now, who knows where she's going to be.
Right.
So I say, I have a great project, would you like to read it?
Exactly.
And so you create opportunities for yourself, but I write a unhealthy amount of time. I don't suggest that everybody write as much as I do unless you're truly, clearly motivated to do so. But I do say for writers, we no longer live in a world where we can wait to be chosen.
Right.
We have to make the choices for ourselves.
Exactly. And that's exactly what you've been able to do with a lot of success. Again, everyone, Gary Hardwick is our guest for this segment. We're talking with him not only about his journey as a writer for film, as he mentioned projects like The Brothers, as well as Deliver Us from Eva and others, but also, of course, for books as well. You see him there with the newest book for Danny Kavanaugh. I mean, Danny Kavanaugh has been an interesting character to follow, Gary, because he is one of these individuals that kind of takes us into a lot of these situations. In the new book, Grind City, I noticed just on your website at GaryHardwick.com and watching the trailer, right, it kind of seems ripped from the headlines. I mean, what does it feel like for you to have a book that is dealing with so many things that are so relevant today? What does it feel like to have a book like that coming out now?
I'm really, really excited. I know authors always say that about their current project, but I believe that this is the best Danny Kavanaugh book yet. The trailer, as you mentioned, I do book trailers now. That's another thing writers have to do in terms of branding and marketing, is to do trailers that are sort of eye-catching and get people to read about and be interested in the book. In this particular case, we are like sort of finger on the pulse, because as I told you before off camera, that this book was going to be started a couple of years ago, and then I stopped because Detroit went into the biggest bankruptcy in the history of America, right, and I knew that I couldn't write authentically about the city until I see how it watched out. And so that aspect really became almost a character in the book, as a lot of things can now be explained by a city coming out of a bankruptcy and having all kinds of financial concerns. And at the same time, the Black Lives Matter movement became sort of the biggest thing in America. And then I ran across a story that made me, that just galvanized me. It just mesmerized me, and that would be the story of Sandra Bland. Now, our story isn't exactly her story, but it's reminiscent of her story. It's about a police stop gone bad. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, I thought that particular situation is the beginning of something. It is not the story itself. So you're probably thinking, what could be worse than a black woman or a black man gets stopped and they end up dead? Well, that's what books do. That's what good books do. They take you down a road, and just when you think you've gone really deep and dark, it gets deeper and darker still. And for Grind City, what I loved about it is on the surface you have your great sort of thrilling in Danny Kavanaugh and all his observations. You also have a murder mystery, and then you have almost a noir type story, even deeper still, when Danny gets to the point where he realizes that the death of this girl is just the beginning of something that is so evil that even he can't believe it. Right. And in the trailer, it says he discovers a motive that is more evil than just murder. And that was the sort of motivation that I had to do a book that would have people going, oh my God, I can't believe that you went there. And, yes, we did.
Wow, what a great
thing. And
thing.
also this book is told in the first person. And the character Danny Kavanaugh has been in my head for over a decade now. And he kind of wanted to tell this story himself. And that's just me wanting to talk about certain things, because I was curious about a lot of things about him. What was it like for him growing up, the only white kid, and what was it like for him getting chased and beat up all the time, and how did it sharpen his mind and toughen his attitude? How did he develop his great passion and love for our culture and for black women in particular? And how does that motivate him from day to day? Right. Kavanaugh is a guy who is white on the outside, black on the inside. The perfect character to talk about all the foibles and the issues that black and white people have, because Danny just calls BS on everybody, black and white. Right. No filter. Yeah. And I really like that perspective.
It's funny you should mention no filter, Gary, because people who stay connected with you on social media know that you are a person who calls it like it is. I mean, how important has that been for you to not only to walk in your own truth, but then to make sure that you speak the truth as you see it?
It's been very important for me, and most people think that that's what they do. They think that I'm the person who tells the truth all the time and is really burdensome and hard. But that is not the case. I mean, law of averages would tell you that most people sort of avoid controversy, and most people, I don't say they're liars, but they shy away from the truth because they don't want to hurt anybody. Yeah. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I'm typically the same way. But there are some things that need a dose and a measure of truth, And I noticed that there are some people who don't shy away from truths no matter how painful. That's one of the quotes that I always use on the back of my book jacket. A reporter from the Fresno Bee read, I think, my second novel, which was Double Dead, and said that I don't shy away from truths no matter how unpalatable in my work. And also sometimes in life, it's the same way. I recently had a post on social media about how I was refraining from having conversations that I find are circular in nature, that we talk about things and then we do nothing about them. I don't want to give any more energy unless we're going to act, unless we're going to do something.
Right.
And we see things come around over and over again, like the Oscars so white, hashtag Oscars so white. That was 5 to 7 years ago, and then maybe 3 years before that. Why does it keep coming up? Because we don't ever do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Already I'm seeing that this particular controversy we're having now, I'm watching it start to diffuse, start to be spread very thin, start to move in one direction. It starts out as why don't black people ... and then it becomes minority people ... then it becomes diversity ... and then someone says, well, the Oscars aren't the problem, this is bigger than Hollywood, and then we start talking about things that have nothing to do with Hollywood, and then we're not talking about Hollywood anymore.
Right.
And at the same time, when there's a focal point of this and everyone is concerned about how Hollywood doesn't represent the world that we see, if you're lucky enough to have a project that you're black, they will lavish praise and they will lavish attention on that project. This time, it's Birth of a Nation, it's Nate Parker's movie.
Yeah.
And so, great for him that he was ready and he was able to do this, because Lord knows without the controversy, there would have been people thinking, how do we sell this? It's going to be hard to sell this. They didn't have to have that conversation because everybody's talking about it.
Exactly.
But we don't want his movie to be the end of the conversation. We want it to be a step where we step up to a bigger and bolder conversation. George Clooney, of all the people who've commented about it, and then there were typical people who put their foot in their mouths, Charlotte Rampling and Michael Caine and even Meryl Streep, of all people, say things because people are really not real educated about race and race relations. But George Clooney kind of said the definitive thing. He said, let's talk about the business, how we do business, and how we put things together. That's where the problem starts.
Right.
And I don't think anybody heard that.
Yeah, a lot for us to do, and thankfully we have individuals like yourself and your characters like Danny Cavanaugh to be able to help us see these things for sure, Gary. Again, everyone, Gary Hardwick has been our guest. Gary, thank you so much again for the time. Make sure you all are visiting www.garyhardwick.com. There you can stay connected with all the great projects that Gary is doing and see that trailer we talked about for the new book that's coming out this year, Grind City. Again, Gary, thank you so much, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
All right, thank you so much.